the last year of 29-53, the Sacramento Kings. They come onto our list as the 11th best team in the West, with additions of Marco Bellinelli, Willie Cauley-Stein, or Willie Trill-Stein if you want to be serious, Caron Butler, Seth Curry, Kosta and Rajon Rondo, and giant loss of Jason Thompson. Yes, that's sarcasm. The Sacramento Kings, a lot of talent, a lot of egos. It just starts with Rudy Gay, Rajon Rondo, and DeMarcus Cousins all being on the same team, and that ownership group. Justin, where do you think this team goes? Because I think this is one of these teams that has the talent to do a lot, but you just know something's going to go wrong.
That is the Kings' way. Honestly, Jason Thompson is going to be a loss. I know you joke about it, but Thompson is a really good player. I think he's going to help Golden State a lot. You'll probably be surprised to hear this, but one of the top five-man rotations in the NBA last season was Darren Collison, Ben McLemore, Rudy Gay, Jason Thompson, and DeMarcus Cousins. All in terms of productivity, they were fantastic, but they really just didn't have a bench. Which, of course, they go and they move Jason Thompson, and for how good Darren Collison was, they go out and get Rajon Rondo, which I'm not a believer in. We saw how much damage Rondo's presence did to Dallas last year. They went from having the league's most efficient offense to not even inside the top 10. Rondo is the biggest concern that I have with the Kings. Rudy Gay, since coming over from Toronto, has been fantastic. He's shooting well from the outside. He's playing inside the role that he should be playing in. Obviously, they're hoping Ben McLemore takes a step up. Marco Bellinelli is going to help them a lot. Boogie Cousins has grown into arguably the best center in the league. So this is a team that I could see making the playoffs theoretically, but the presence of Rondo really does make me nervous about that.
Yeah. One guy I didn't mention with the loss column, actually, Nick Stauskas, who went in that Thompson trade. Another Sam Hinkie grabbing draft picks play. And, this is kind of funny, right? We're talking about Rajon Rondo. Had they not drafted Stauskas and taken another big-haired point guard, Elfrid Payton, who still hurts me this day. It's maybe a totally different situation. But when you look at this team, I do agree with you. One addition I really actually do like, which I think is a bit underrated, is Kosta. I think he's a very, very useful big, and they're a very burly team. I think they're going to outmuscle a lot of guys. Willie Cauley-Stein, I know a lot of people gave them a little bit of flack for drafting him when kind of Emmanuel Mudiay was sitting there, Justice Winslow, and guys who maybe could, because you sit there and think, is Stein the best fit on this team, or are they just trying to appease Cousins? When you saw that pick, because we did our draft coverage here for hoopslounge.com, did you think it was more an appeasing Cousins, or this is the best way to go kind of pick?
I didn't think it was an appeasing Cousins. I thought it was a bit of a plan B, because it's still unsure whether or not they trade DeMarcus Cousins, which could be the biggest defining factor of how well the Kings do this year. Yeah. So I think he's a bit of a plan B for Cousins. But at the same time, if they can salvage the relationship, which I hope they do. If you're picking between George Karl and DeMarcus Cousins, you take DeMarcus Cousins every time. That being said, I think Cauley-Stein is going to be able to play next to Cousins. I think he's shown that he can play in space. He's a tremendous player. I think with Cousins playing better defensively, with Cauley-Stein there, you really do have a great defensive tandem. Kosta, as you mentioned, fantastic defender as well. There's really a lot to like about this Kings lineup. I think they've had a very good offseason overall. It just keeps circling back to Rondo for me. If he doesn't get in the way, I think it's going to help them a lot. In a perfect world, and there wasn't pressures and wasn't contracts and stuff like that, I think you'd start Darren Collison and bring Rondo off the bench, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. But you never know. George Karl has worked miracles with point guards in the past.
Yeah, I remember that gif of George Karl trying to say hi to DeMarcus Cousins on the bench, and Cousins kind of just looking past him. And Like I'm not sure that's working out, but um, if I was gonna say, like, because we were talking about DeMarcus Cousins, and if he gets traded, it changes everything, and could be one of the biggest, deciding factors for this organization. Because we were saying off camera, like DeMarcus Cousins is almost underrated. He plays for a small market, what's seen as a small market, and a lot of these other guys get a lot more press. But his progression on the defensive end and his sheer dominance on the offensive end has made him, like, there are very few players like if you just reshuffled the whole deck in the NBA and had a fantasy draft, probably goes top 5. Going forward. I mean, maybe not top 5, but at least top 10. I mean, it depends where you want to go. But if he gets traded, do you think it's more because I hear conflicting reports that he doesn't want to be there, or they don't like what he brings to the table and they want to do something else?
It's so hard to get a read on what's going on with the Kings at all times. If he goes, it's because they're essentially picking George Karl over DeMarcus Cousins. I think they could. Obviously, you're going to get a good return if you do move Cousins. I think if they are looking at moving him, Orlando might be a good candidate. A package around Vucevic, maybe even a guy like Oladipo or Hazonia. I think you could get a big return for Cousins. Ideally, you'd want to keep him there, but I don't think Cousins is as big of a problem as people paint him as. He's never really had any on-court issues. He's a bit demonstrative, and even off-court issues. I mean, outside of arguing with teammates, he hasn't got in trouble with the law. He's not a volatile personality. He's someone that has kind of been labeled as someone that isn't always trusting at the of people until they've kind of earned his trust. Obviously, the Kings have done a lot of things to betray that trust. But we saw that with Kyle Lowry, that he was someone that didn't trust people until he was put in the right situation. And I think Cousins is just dying to get in that right situation. So as a fan of the league, I think everybody hopes that happens. And obviously, Kings fans are hoping that situation is in Sacramento.
Yeah, and as a closing point, I see a lot of players, and I tweeted about Anthony Davis earlier this week, that I hope it doesn't fall into the Kevin Garnett syndrome, where you just end up being this amazing player on this team that never goes anywhere, and you're never surrounded by the right guys. And he's 25 years old. It's kind of looking that way in weird ways. My secret hope, and I know it's weird, is that he gets traded for a package surrounded around Bradley Beal and Neneh Gortat to put Cousins and Wall back together. Just make that Kentucky connection.
Yeah, that'd be a terrible haul for the Kings. I mean, I think you can get a whole lot more than Bradley Beal, who, I mean, he does still have potential and he's young, but he hasn't really proven a whole lot yet in the NBA.
No, absolutely. Well, guys, if there's any Kings fans out there, please let us know what you guys think. Are they better than where we rank them? And give us your justification why. Comments below. From Justin, myself, Phil, please join us next time on our worst first episode here on hoopslounge.com. We'll catch you next time.